Now, there's a lot, to be honest, going over in the King's speech, um, but there was something buried in there that I think no one really noticed that is going to have quite a big impact. Now, I get told by a lot of Europeans whenever I talk about Brexit that we in the UK should start following, all the EU rules and regulations and what we signed up for. Well, guess what, guys? Guess what was in the King's speech? You know, um, and honestly, this is going to be, I think, really, really quite good because this is exactly what we need. We need to be following, rules and sort of regulations because why? Industries have been at it since day one, even before we joined what were the beginnings of the European Economic Community. It was businesses who pushed at that time the Conservative Party into joining that institution, and then of course everything built up over time. So once again we have businesses at the forefront saying, hey, we want to have these rules and regulations. We want to know what it is because guess what? Guess where our most of our customers are. It doesn't take rocket science because, as we've been saying before, trade gravity is a thing. Countries trade with their closest partners first. Who is our closest partner? Da, 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 da. Yeah, it's the EU. Again, doesn't take rocket science to work it out. And honestly, quite frankly, if you take what we've seen yesterday with Keir Starmer's opening speech at the Buckingham Palace, really reinforcing the UK's role in the European Court of Human Rights, how important it is. The wording in the speech really gives a real sense that the adults are back in the room. And when you combine it with this bill, which we'll be talking about in the moment, certainly you're about to see, I think, because I don't think even the Brexiteers have even really realized it at the moment, there is a lot of, shall we say, EU alignment about to take place on this bill. So we'll see what happens in the future and how annoyed the Brexiteers are going to get at this bill. But trust me, there's going to be a lot of anger at this bill indeed. But before we get talking about this, please remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one foundation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So over we go to the New European to have a look at this with the title of A Brexit Bombshell Buried in the King's Speech. So, hidden amongst the very pomp and ceremony of the King's speech was a very small announcement that is going to change the UK forever. It is the first step back from the cliff edge of the ideological Brexit, pushed by people who refuse to listen to sense, which has done untold harm to the British economy. And it is going to enrage all the right people. Again, love it. Love it. And that being, of course, the MP for Clacton and his fellow hard Brexiteers. So the actual announcement in the description of and again, get ready to hear a lot about this bill. It doesn't sound, shall we say, the most sexiest of bill names ever, but it is the Product Safety and Meteorology Bill. Doesn't, again, inspire, lots, but however, it is exactly, of course, as we say in the UK. I don't know if you have Ronsil in Europe, but we have a product called Ronsil. Does exactly what it says on the tin, and it's of course a wood treatment thing. You bash it on your wood, there you go. It keeps it all nice and looking good and protects it from erosion from the rain. And of course, infamous saying does exactly what it says on the tin. But in a way, this is equally product safety and meteorology bill doesn't seem to strike it. But again, it's what the bill does. So this is what it says. It says, we need new powers to address current or even future threats and hazards, and to ensure now a continued supply of safe goods on our market. And so this bill now ensures us to make the sovereign choice to, here we go, to mirror or diverge from updated EU rules so that we can maintain high product safety standards while supporting businesses and economic growth. That, my friends, is fantastic because I will tell you this now. There have been a lot of talks by a lot of businesses worried by what was called regulatory inertia or a regulatory divergence in inertia by the fact that you had a conservative government who was just not interested in regulations. This ultimately was what Brexit, for many of those Brexit ultras, was all about getting rid of regulations, just making sure that businesses, companies, markets could do whatever the hell they wanted. And as a result, over the past, couple of years since, the infamous Brexit date, have the Brexiteers actually implemented or brought in any new regulation? No, in fact, they've stripped regulation in many areas, particularly in chemical regulation. Something that we've done a couple of videos about very, very quietly, I might add as well. When they did it, it barely got any news attention, but did it? They did, and of course, what a lot of companies were worried about was this, you know, uh, regulation drift where the EU would keep on with its, regulatory agenda. That's what the EU really ultimately does. It's what its main interest is. That eventually, we would drift further as we would stay there. And of course, now this is saying, hey, we need to mirror the EU on its regulations. Now, don't worry about the divergence part because, hey, sensible heads are in. You've got sensible people, you've got adults now in the room. And when you've got pretty much the vast majority of UK companies saying, we want to keep in line with EU rules and regulations, then at this point, this is where sensible heads will prevail. And once again, we'll start saying, well, we'll align with them on this, this, and this, and this. Like I say, new dawn, people, new dawn. And it's absolutely wonderful to see, you know? But as always, I think we are headed to a point where, and I do really think this is where we're headed. I think this is honestly the direction of travel we're going, where, you know, Starmer and the rest of Labour can just turn around and just go, this is Brexit. This is as best as it's ever going to be. You're really sure you want to continue with this? Because, if we rejoin the EU, there'd be all these economic benefits, etc., etc. Are you sure you still want to continue with this? I don't think that's, I think it's going to be a very easy answer. I think when the British public really get there, we're already seeing that in the polls. But I think that is the direction of travel. Really does seem to be. Really does seem to be. And, I couldn't be happier. I know there's a lot of people who are disappointed that it's not fast enough, that Keir Starmer isn't saying, we need to join single market, customs union, etc. Even though, again, there are ways that we could do that, again, examples being Norway, Turkey, Sweden, not Sweden, Switzerland, has a ton of agreements, practically is in the single market customs union. But there are other ways, there's the association agreement we're seeing with Ukraine and Georgia, a ton of different ways we could go back into it. Again, we'll see what happens in the future, but there are ways back into it. And like I say, we'll see what happens, but everything so far going in the right direction, exactly the direction I was hoping we'd go in. And guess what? We are. And I couldn't, quite frankly, be happier. And many of us pro-Europeans in the UK should be extremely happy with the direction that we are going in, because we are going in the right direction. We're having the big reset yesterday at Blenheim Palace. I think, again, a lot of good stuff will also come from that. If you've read the recent Private Eye and you read the Brussels sprouts, dispatch, shall we say. Very interesting line in there indeed. But of course, as always, thank you very much, of course, for all you guys who watch. Like I say, let me know what you think down below. But I think this is amazing progress in the right direction. And of course, as always, do remember to click on the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, etc. All that's down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.